Are you confused about why your therapist wants you to talk about your childhood? Hi there, and welcome back to Ask Dr. Syra, the show where I answer your questions about personal growth, mental health, and relationships. So today's question comes from Harmon. Harmon says, when I listen to certain motivational speakers, they say talking about your past keeps you stuck, and then you can't live the life you want. Why then would I talk about my childhood in therapy? When I listen to certain motivational speakers, they say talking about your past keeps you stuck and then you can't live the life you want. Why then would I talk about my childhood in therapy? I love this question. This is a question that I had as well in my early days of my master's program, right? It's like, if we're trying to build something, why are we looking backwards? And kind of like struggled with that. And over the years, I've come to see some different reasons, and I want to share those with you. So the first is what I call the unconscious tether. The second is beliefs about yourself. And the third thing is about incidents. Okay, so I'll keep it simple that way. So we start with unconscious tether, beliefs about myself, and then incidents. So let's start with the first one. So the modern founder of Western psychology was Sigmund Freud. And one of the things that Freud talked about, and then many others after him, including Jung and others, was that there is kind of this richness in parts of our mind that we can't access. Okay, so that there's the conscious mind that you can you know what you're thinking. And then there's this other part of the mind that's more hidden. It's harder to access. And a lot of our pain, especially from childhood, hangs out there. So we don't really have access to it. Unfortunately, it does influence our day-to-day lives. So you can have access to your unconscious mind through dreams. Sometimes if you're in an altered state of consciousness, you might get access to it. Sometimes if you're in what's called a flow state, so when you're just kind of in the zone, you might get access to some of that material. But it takes effort to get in touch with the richness that's there, right? So the idea is that there's actually richness there. So, and that's just the way that the human mind works according to the early founders of psychology. So that method is rooted in the idea that it's only by going backwards and doing some letting go that you can move forward without that unconscious tether. I'm going to say that again. It's only by going backwards and healing and letting go and clearing that you can get rid of that unconscious tether that holds you from moving forward into the life you want. And that you can do with a therapist, right? If you're sitting there and every day you're journaling about your past over and over and over and over, I don't think that's the best use of your time. And I don't think that's as therapeutic as learning about something from your past, doing a deep dive, clearing it, and then moving forward. We don't want you to live in the pain of the past. It doesn't make sense, right? And so that's when you say I'm hearing certain motivational speakers, I don't know who these speakers are, but what I'm guessing is that they're trying to keep you from living in that and over-identifying with pain from your past and saying, this is my life. I heard someone say the other day, biography is not destiny, right? Biography is not destiny. Just because something happened in your life doesn't mean that your life is now determined to only be a certain way, because we have free choice. We have agency. We have free will. So in any given moment, I can decide that, whatever happened to me, that was yesterday. Today's a new day, and I'm going to make some different choices today, right? So in that sense, I agree that living there and just marinating there for years and years and years isn't the best way to build the life that you want. It might help you get some understanding, but it won't actually make you move forward. And so, but there is value in going back, having a bit of an exploration, and then using that to help you spring forward. Okay. The other thing about it is it's important, I think, for many of us to understand our historical context. So to understand our parents and our grandparents and the cultures that we come from and the messaging that's been sent intergenerationally through us. If we don't look at our past, like if you don't look at your roots, how will this tree be strong, right? If we ignore the roots, if the roots rot away and we have no concept of our roots, that tree is going to fall over. So I think there is value in knowing our past, in knowing our family's history and our ancestral history as best we can, but not to live there, right? Not to make that then your story. Because, my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, we all did this thing. And so now I also have to do this thing. No, you don't, right? You can choose something else. So that's the first thing, is that tether, that unconscious tether, and letting that go. The second thing I would say is that there are certain beliefs that we form about ourselves based on our experiences in our younger years. It's just a fact. Our identity starts to form before we can even speak. We're already starting to take input and understand like what kind of person I want to be in this world. Some of it comes, like some of it's pre-wired. And I often say to parents, like, you're a shepherd, be a shepherd. You're not a creator, you're a shepherd. Because you can choose which pasture to let those sheep graze on. You can keep them safe from the wolves, but you can't make them eat and you can't make them grow. They will in their own way. So there is some things that are kind of predetermined. But in addition to that, certain beliefs that might have formed because of your life experiences. If you don't get curious about that, then these continue in that unconscious space and they influence our decision making, they influence our choices, they influence actually what we see as a possibility. Like you won't even see certain possibilities if you have a certain mindset about a particular area. You won't even see the possibilities because you're like, no, that doesn't exist. And so your mind will say, oh, that's an anomaly. Like if it does exist, the mind will say, no, that's not real. That's magical thinking. This other thing is real. So when you look into your past, you're actually expanding yourself and saying, wait a minute, what if I was wrong about myself? What if there's some things I can change about myself? And part of how to do that is to just revisit and clean up some of my past. Finally, and this is super important, super, super important for those people in therapy. It is not a requirement to revisit every single difficult incident from your childhood. That is not a requirement for healing, okay? You don't have to go back and relive the pain of the past, of every single incident and every single bad thing that happened. What is helpful is to start gathering up the beliefs and the feelings that were connected to those incidents. Now, sometimes sharing a traumatic incident with a therapist can be absolutely therapeutic. And your therapist will guide you through that. But it shouldn't be like week after week after week, you're sharing like this story and this story and this story and this story and this story, because then you're just enforcing the narrative, right? That I had a really shitty childhood, and maybe you did. But we don't need to live in the stories. What we're trying to do is clear the emotions and the beliefs that erupted because of those stories that you're still carrying with you today. Those stories are gone. Those stories are just like electrical impulses in your brain that we call memory. That's all that is. But the emotions of it, the beliefs about it have stayed with you. And that's the thing that we can shift in therapy when we talk about our past and when we actually are willing to heal our past. And another thing to think about is, what do you want to focus on, right? What do they say? You can't drive a car if you're only looking in the rear view mirror. You gotta look there every so often, check, but you want to keep moving forward, right? So if you're preoccupied with your past, well, yeah, it's going to keep you just stuck. You can't move forward. But there is value in checking in every so often, I would say. And maybe other people don't agree with that. There may be some schools in psychology that say, forget about your past and move on. I've just seen that we can only do that for so long. And if we don't address it, then our kids get to take on that burden of addressing those demons from the past. If you don't heal it, you pass it on. So those are my thoughts about that question. Thank you for it, and feel free to send me your questions. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel. You could do the notification bell so you can see when these videos come out, and I'll see you next time. Bye.